In a quiet Scottish town called Kirkcaldy, where the sea whispered and winds carried ideas, a boy named Adam Smith was born in 1723, destined to change the fate of economies forever. As a child, Smith was unusually curious, not about games or adventures, but about how people lived, worked, traded, and prospered across different lands and times. He didn't come from wealth, but his mind was rich with questions that most people never dared to ask. Why are some nations rich while others stay poor? Is there a natural order to wealth, trade, and production? His journey of thought began early, and it never stopped, not even as he walked the streets of Oxford or gave lectures in Edinburgh. Oxford, despite its prestige, disappointed him. Its scholars were lazy, its halls uninspired, and its ideas chained to the past. Returning to Scotland, Smith began delivering lectures that challenged the status quo and inspired a generation of intellectuals and leaders. His first book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, explored something profound, that even in a world driven by self-interest, empathy, and morality still guide our actions. But his greatest impact was still to come, an idea so powerful it would shape the world for centuries. In 1776, the same year as the American Revolution, Smith published The Wealth of Nations, a book that would become the economic Bible of capitalism. He challenged mercantilism, the dominant theory of the time, which claimed a nation's strength came from stockpiling gold and tightly controlling trade. Smith argued that real wealth comes not from hoarding, but from producing, exchanging, and innovating freely across open markets. He believed in a world where individuals, driven by self-interest, would contribute to the common good without even realizing it. This invisible coordination, which he famously called the invisible hand, became the foundation of modern economic thought. A baker doesn't make bread out of charity, Smith wrote, but out of personal interest. And yet through this, society is fed and enriched. It was a revolutionary concept. Selfishness, if properly channeled, could become a force for good. Smith wasn't a blind idealist. He knew markets could fail, that monopolies could strangle innovation, and that power could corrupt. That's why he insisted on a limited but important role for government to build infrastructure, protect the nation, and educate its citizens. He was not an anarchist nor a fan of unregulated greed. He believed in structure, ethics, and the public good. In his critique of bureaucracy, he famously wrote that most public revenue is wasted on unproductive hands, a sharp jab at government inefficiency. He filled his book with observations that were both witty and wise, like comparing beggars to scholars or mocking cockfighting as a symbol of human folly. The book's famous index of subjects included odd yet revealing entries. Beggar alone depends on benevolence, and cockfighting has ruined many. But beneath the cleverness was a deep moral vision of a society built on fairness, productivity, and individual liberty. His ideas spread like wildfire across Europe, transforming the way nations thought about labor, industry, and international trade. To Smith, the division of labor, where each person specializes in a task, was the key to increasing productivity and national wealth. He gave the example of a simple pin factory. When tasks are divided, production multiplies tenfold. This wasn't just economic theory. It was a call for progress through efficiency, creativity, and cooperation. Smith's work inspired economists, revolutionaries, merchants, and kings alike, because he spoke not just to the mind, but to the future. His vision laid the groundwork for capitalism as we know it, a system of exchange, competition, and innovation. But unlike today's harsh caricature of capitalism, Smith's version had a soul. It valued ethics, transparency, and human dignity. As the Industrial Revolution exploded in the 19th century, Smith's principles became more relevant than ever. Factories, machines, and trade networks all echoed his vision, a world powered by individual ambition and collective gain. Yet Smith warned that capitalism without conscience would lead to collapse, inequality, and unrest. He knew that markets are tools, not gods, and they must be guided by laws and morals to serve the people. His followers sometimes forgot that part. They embraced profit but ignored his moral warnings. Still, his influence endured, growing stronger in times of economic crisis, when leaders sought answers in his words. He lived a humble life, avoiding the spotlight, never marrying, and spending his final years refining his work in solitude. Though he passed away in 1790, his legacy never faded. It grew, transformed, and adapted with every generation. Today, Adam Smith's name is etched into the core of modern economics, forever tied to freedom, markets, and the pursuit of prosperity. But behind that name is a man of great complexity, whose ideas continue to spark debate, shape policy, and inspire minds around the globe. Adam Smith was not just a theorist of markets, he was a philosopher of life, deeply concerned with human motivation, emotion, and justice. While The Wealth of Nations became his most famous work, his earlier book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, reveals the heart of who he truly was. He believed that human beings are not cold, calculating machines, but moral creatures shaped by sympathy and the need for approval. To Smith, society works best when individuals act from both self-interest and a natural concern for others. This delicate balance between personal gain and moral responsibility is the soul of his entire philosophy. He warned that without moral grounding, markets would spiral into exploitation, injustice, and instability. Smith envisioned a world where freedom did not mean chaos, but the ability to act ethically within fair systems. He believed in progress, not the ruthless kind that crushes the weak, but the thoughtful kind that uplifts the many. For Smith, education wasn't a luxury, it was essential for a functioning, prosperous society. He urged governments to fund schools, train teachers, and prepare citizens to think critically in a complex economy. At a time when most thinkers ignored the poor, Smith insisted they be included in the economic conversation. His compassion was as bold as his intellect. He saw the dignity in labor and the humanity in every transaction. Though often misunderstood, Smith was not a worshiper of wealth. He was a champion of fairness, liberty, and opportunity. He feared monopolies, distrusted corporations, and warned against the collusion of business and politics. He wrote that when merchants meet, it ends in a conspiracy against the public, a chilling warning that echoes today. His writings showed a sharp awareness of inequality and the dangers of concentrated power. He did not believe the rich were entitled to rule, nor that markets should be left entirely alone. Smith's view of capitalism was dynamic, alive with possibility but tethered to moral boundaries. He was fascinated by human behavior, how emotions like vanity, envy, and pride shape our choices in markets and life. Even in his economic models, he made room for irrationality, empathy, and the unpredictable nature of human needs. Smith's genius was not in cold logic, but in blending emotion with reason, numbers with values, and liberty with responsibility. As the Enlightenment swept across Europe, Smith became one of its guiding lights, arguing for freedom with both clarity and conscience. He was a friend and mentor to other great minds like David Hume, sharing ideas that challenged kings, churches, and empires. Together, they envisioned a new world, one governed by reason, guided by ethics, and open to the flow of ideas. Smith's legacy is not just in charts and theories, it is in every entrepreneur who dares to create something new. It's in every reformer who fights for fair wages, ethical markets, and equal access to opportunity. It's in every debate about taxes, trade, government policy, and the soul of capitalism itself. He gave us tools to build economies, but also mirrors to examine our motivations and intentions. Even his death was quiet, free from fanfare, as if he knew his ideas would speak louder than any monument. Today, in an era of economic uncertainty and global inequality, we return again to Adam Smith, not just for answers, but for wisdom. What would he think of billion-dollar tech monopolies, financial crises, and the gig economy? Would he defend today's version of capitalism, or call us to return to the roots of fairness and virtue? Perhaps the most enduring lesson Smith gave us is that freedom and morality are not enemies, but allies. He taught that human prosperity is not built on greed alone, but on trust, cooperation, and shared values. As global markets grow more complex, his insights become more relevant, not less. We must remember that Smith's invisible hand only works when guided by a visible conscience. He believed in humanity's potential to create, to improve, and to prosper, not at the expense of others, but alongside them. His work is a blueprint for possibility, a reminder that economics is not just about money, but about meaning. Every time we make a choice to buy, to sell, to save, or to invest, we participate in the living legacy of Adam Smith. His ideas are not frozen in history. They evolve, adapt, and challenge us in new ways each generation. Economics is not a machine. It is a mirror of human nature, full of paradoxes, hopes, and dilemmas. Smith dared to look into that mirror and ask not just what is profitable, but what is right. That is what separates him from mere theorists. He was a moral visionary in an age of numbers. From the classrooms of Harvard to the streets of Nairobi, his ideas continue to educate, liberate, and provoke thought. Even critics of capitalism respect him because he laid bare its potential and its peril with unmatched honesty. He showed us that self-interest is natural, but must be tempered by wisdom, compassion, and collective responsibility. We live in a world shaped by his dreams and threatened by the very forces he warned us about. So we must read him not as a relic of the past, but as a guide to the future. Adam Smith, the quiet man from Scotland, never imagined that centuries later, his name would echo in boardrooms, parliaments, and protests. But that is the mark of true greatness, ideas that transcend their time and voices that never fade. Let us honor that voice, not just by quoting it, but by living up to the ideals it dared to defend. The invisible hand is still here, but so is the human heart, and together they can build a better world.